what I wanted to move on to now were kind of the implications about this. This is seen as being a very classic study in psychology. For the people who've had it in other classes, what class did you have it in? Was it just intro psychology or what?
It was intro.
Intro to psychology?
I went to a memory lecture at Gettysburg College a couple of years ago.
A memory lecture. So after Hannah and her sisters was on last night when I couldn't sleep, Remember the Titans was on. And that took place a little bit at Gettysburg College. Was it an intro class for you as well?
Pardon?
Was it an intro class for you as well?
I think so.
So this is considered a classic experiment. What implications? What would be some implications of this particular situation? Why would this be considered important? Memory. Were you all watching the same thing? Were you staring right at that video? What do cognitive psychologists like to think about memory? I mean, if you're all staring at the same thing, what should be the case?
We should all have the same memory of the event.
You should all have the same memory of that event. Now, when I was growing up in the state of, did I tell you guys where I grew up? Say again? New Jersey. You said that with kind of a little negative disposition on your face, and a lot of people in New Jersey feel exactly the same way about New Jersey. We used to take car rides. My mom and dad used to bring me and my 3 siblings out to Milwaukee, where my relatives lived, and we were all called the Animals, and we were all in the back seat. And do you think, would that be a short or long drive from New Jersey to Milwaukee, Wisconsin? It was long and it was brutal. How many people have taken long distance trips with family members at times? Long and brutal sometimes? Now, do you think do you have strong memories of what actually happened on those trips?
Yeah.
A lot of people actually do. If you were to actually ask your brothers and sisters about the same trips, what do you think they would have to say about the trips? Would they have strong memories for the event as well? They would, but how would they match with yours? No, many times we find that memories for these long-term events are actually quite disparate from one another. So this study, you were all staring at the same thing for 10 seconds. Long-term memory, is it perfectly reliable and accurate? You were all staring at the same thing. Could this have any implications for any other fields? I think I put, implications here. Eyewitness testimony.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about eyewitness testimony. So let's say you're in a situation. Has anybody ever been an eyewitness? So let's say there's a robbery taking place and somebody has a gun. I think I was watching Fast Times at Ridgemont High and had a scene at that at the end. Or what was the other one? Coming to America, Eddie Murphy. Kind of getting a guy. Nope, not making any sense to anybody.
No, it makes sense. I just haven't seen the movie.
Yeah, forever. So the idea is, for eyewitness testimony, you're in a restaurant, you're in a fast food place, you're in a convenience store, somebody comes in with a gun, you see it, the police ask you about things. According to this experiment, is eyewitness testimony do people use it a lot in the courtroom? Is it considered to be very important? Yes, eyewitness testimony, for your notes, is considered to be very important. Oh, there was an eyewitness right there. That information is considered to be critically important. What would this actually say about that particular situation, though? When you're looking in an eyewitness memory situation, watching a crime, do you even know that there's a crime actually occurring?
No, not usually.
Not usually. Do you kind of catch a glimpse of it, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe a glimpse of it. And if somebody has a gun, what are you probably looking at? The gun?
You're not looking at them or what they're wearing or what race they are or how tall they are.
You're not looking at anything about the person. It's actually called the weapons focus effect, if you want to write that down. You usually focused on the weapon. I think about the end of the, what was it, the second movie of Divergent. Boy, Kate Winslet has had some roles in her life. Did anybody see the Divergent movies? She was, of course, in Titanic with Leonardo, and at the end of this movie, she's the bad guy in this movie. What happens at the end of the second movie in that scene? Does anybody recall?
She got shot.
Yeah, the gal comes in and says, "You'll have no memory of this," and basically kills her right at the end. So if you're staring at a weapon, which you probably are, do you get 10 seconds to look at the whole thing? Probably not. You maybe just catch a glimpse from 10 or 15 yards away, maybe. So what would this say about the accuracy of eyewitness testimony? It would really put it in question, but it's used a lot in the courtroom. But this study by Loftus and Palmer really suggests that it may not be a very accurate way of really finding out. But is it used a lot? Is it considered very valuable? Yeah. So one implication, kind of meaning from this study, is eyewitness testimony may be very biased. We have the weapons focus effect. Usually you just catch a glimpse of something from a few seconds away. How was it here? How were the conditions for our experiment? Madison, how were the conditions for our experiment? Were you just catching a glimpse of something that you weren't told to pay attention to?
No, we were told to watch the whole video.
Stare right at the screen, right at the video. And when they did that in the original experiment, they were looking right at it, and what did they still find?
That the words that were asked later
Still mattered. And do people ask questions after about eyewitnesses? Can they word them differently and kind of change? Yeah, so eyewitness testimony might not be too good. What about police? Do police ask questions? Can some of those questions be worded in different ways?
Yes.
How fast were the cars going when they smashed? How fast were you going when you did X, Y, or Z? Lineups. You could have lineups. You could have what are they called? Where you go through the books. I'm forgetting the name of that. Say again? Mugshots. Yeah, you're asked to look through books and pages of things. Is there a good chance that that's going to be really accurate? No, there could be a lot of potential biases with that. What about attorneys? Would attorneys want to know about this study? Yes. Why would attorneys want to know about this study?
Because say you're defending someone for robbery. If the eyewitness has trouble with memory, they can easily be like, well, how do you know it was my client that did it?
The defendant, the prosecutor might choose very different words if you're trying to get somebody in jail. Hannah, how fast were you going when you smashed into that other car?
Pretty fast.
So you might say pretty fast, but my wording as the attorney, it might change your answer a little bit, but who's it really going to change? Who else could it potentially change?
The people listening to the jury.
The jury. You're going to use very strong language, very emotional language. If you're kind of, what is it, the defender? Who's the defender? That's not the prosecutor. What do you call the attorney?
Defense attorney?
The defense attorney. Thank you. Sorry, I had my first little fender bender a couple of weeks ago, and that happened. And when the defense attorney, when he's questioning, would he word the same way? he would probably say, how fast were you going when you made contact with the other car? Very non-emotionally based, use different wording. Could that influence your answer? Yes, but who else could that influence? The jury. So wording might be very important to the jury as well. Might be very important to the jury as well with this particular situation. Comments or questions about this? Okay? We'll stop recording number 2 after 10 minutes of me babbling.